Yeah, we're always looking for an edge, but I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Paul, you can trust me. Hello and welcome to We Are Chelsea, the official podcast of Chelsea Women, brought to you in association with Skoda, who are the official car partner for Chelsea Women, and they are proud supporters of women's sport. I'm Caz De Moraes, and today I'm delighted to be joined by the head of women's football at Chelsea, Paul Green. Now, Paul's been at the club since 2013, so he is the perfect person to talk about turning Chelsea into the winning machine that they are today. We've also broken out of Cobham, as you can see, and we are bringing you this special episode from West London Skoda. This is We Are Chelsea with Paul Green. Paul, welcome onto the pod. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. The sun is shining, so I'm in a good mood.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really excited to have you on. You're the first member of staff that we've got on this season. For those that don't know, can you tell me what your official title is?
Yeah, I'm the head of women's football.
And what does that mean, Paul? Break it down for us.
Yeah, it means I'd oversee the whole programme from the first team to the academy, involved in the recruitment of players, retention of players, managing the budget.
Well, you're very VIP. That sounds like a lot of responsibility is on your shoulders.
Yeah, well, as long as the team's winning, then I'm okay, I think.
Well, I read somewhere that your phone is like red hot, always ringing. Break down what a typical day looks like for you.
Yeah, it can be different agents ringing about the next superstar player that they've got and are recommending to the club, or it could be members of staff wanting to have a meeting about different things, looking ahead to next season's budget planning. It can be the sporting directors wanting to check in, see how things are going, or it's quite a vast, wide role. But it's something I wouldn't change. Really love football, always have, and it's a pleasure to be involved with the club and be there for such a long time.
You've got to have a kind of a variety of roles, or musts, I say, because if an agent's calling you about this superstar player, you've got to be able to sometimes show keen interest and then sometimes be like, I want to kindly let you down, like she's not on our watch list. That's quite a hard role as well sometimes, no? Yeah,
I think that's what we've done well over the years, really, is knowing which calls to take and which ones not to, or which players to pursue and which not to. Because I think in football, you're only as good as the players that you recruit, ultimately. And I think we've got a really good track record of doing that at Chelsea.
Talk to me about how you came to football. I know you come from a footballing family and your dad, Bill, was a footballer. Tell me about his influence on you and what it was like growing up.
Yeah, my dad was a huge influence on me. He was a footballer, like you say, played for a number of different clubs, played for Hartlepool, Carlisle, West Ham, Peterborough, Chesterfield and Doncaster. And then he went into coaching with Scunthorpe United. He was the assistant manager there. Then became the manager, and then he had a fantastic scouting career as well, where he worked for Southampton, for Leicester, Wigan, Derby, a lot of different clubs. So he was very experienced in the field before he passed away. And it was a massive influence on me. I was always destined to work in football. Like I say, my dad got transferred when I was 10 days old from Carlisle to West Ham. I don't obviously remember that, but I was on the move from a very young age and moved around the country with him. Myself and my sister Victoria are the only two in our family that aren't born in Newcastle because of where my dad was in his playing career. I was born in Carlisle and my sister was born in Chesterfield.
So quite a unique position for your dad to have been a player, a coach, and then also have the scouting process, because we sometimes forget that football has such a huge ecosystem around it. And most of the time people think, I really love football, I want to be a player. But actually, you can still love football. And if you can't make it as a player, you could work in a variety of different roles. I would love to be a scout because I feel like it's my dream job. You just get to watch football all day. But it's not quite just that, is it?
No, but yeah, the game's grown so much from, when my dad was playing to even when I was playing. Now there is so many different roles and so many different departments. Whereas, back in the day, it was probably a staff of 3 or 4 people that ran the whole club from the performance point of view. Whereas now, our staff is 25 plus. And yeah, there's certainly a lot more opportunity now in the game than what there ever has been.
So you were always going to be working in football. What was your first job or role in the football world?
Yeah, I wanted to be a player.
Yeah.
I wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps. He'd played over 400 league games and then gone into management, as I mentioned. So yeah, I was always trying to emulate him. I didn't quite make that. I was at Scunthorpe United as a YTS player and then moved to Rotherham United and did a year's pro there, which, yeah, I don't think was fulfilling what I wanted to, because I never made my Football League debut. So I always felt I underachieved in that area, comparing myself to my dad. Did play against some pretty decent players in the reserves for Rotherham, though, in David Beckham, Nicky Butt, Gary Neville, the sort of class of 92, just because they're similar age to me. David Batty.
Just a few little names there.
Yeah, David Batty, Paul Warhurst, Kevin Gallagher, who was in the Blackburn team that was very successful. But yeah, felt I didn't quite make what I wanted to. And then I moved into non-league football, played for a number of different non-league teams in the Northeast, and then moved into coaching. I did my UEFA B coaching qualification and then quickly did my UEFA A. I was scouting for different clubs in the men's game that my dad was attached to on a part-time basis and looked to get into women's football. John Buckley, who was my course tutor for the UEFA B licence, was actually the manager of Doncaster Rovers Bells. And he invited me down. I'd known him for years because he was a player at Rotherham and at Scunthorpe, and I actually used to be his boot boy, so I knew him pretty well anyway. He invited me down to Donny Bells just to do a little bit of coaching and see what I thought of it, really. And yeah, I'll never forget the first night I went down to Cantley Park at Doncaster where they were training, and in that one moment I was drawn to women's football, became the assistant manager with Doncaster Bells. A couple of months later the secretary left and I said, well, I'll do that, I'll organise the matches, I'll do the registrations. And so I was like doing a joint role where I was the assistant manager and the secretary.
Nice.
And yeah, that's sort of how I got into it, really.
So you're a bit of a dark horse because you've been a player, you've been a coach, you've dabbled in a bit of scouting. So a great person to be head of women's football. And you started at Chelsea in 2013. You've got to be one of the longest standing members of staff, maybe in the men's and the women's team, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, to be honest. But no, yeah, I think I am probably one of the longest serving. And it's just changed so much in that period.
Talk to me about how much things have changed, in particular the team, because I know we've spoken to Fran last season and she talked about how much it has changed. Carly talked about how much it's changed. How much change have you seen from when you started to where it is now? I mean, that's a whole podcast episode on its own, I know. Yeah,
it has changed massively. Like going back to 2013, it was a very small staff. There was, I think, 3 full-time members of staff. There was myself, Rob Udberg, who was the head of development, who did a lot of good work in the early days to help get the club to where it is now. Emma was part-time. The team were training fully together 2 nights a week in the evening. And then during the day, there was, I think, 8 to 10 players that me and Rob used to coach during the day. And then we'd have the games on the weekend. So, yeah, it's very different to what it is today. But there's been various stages in that development of, first turning fully professional in 2015, where Emma then became full-time with the team and the staff started to grow out. But, yeah, it's been built from very small but strong foundations, and that growth and the investment that the club have put into the women's programme has really helped that journey, and we've built it gradually over time into what it is now, one of the best women's football clubs in the world.
What do you think the biggest change has been?
I think the biggest change was turning professional. Coming out of the foundation and going into the main club at the time was a massive shift for us. And I think also across the whole club and the various departments across the whole club, that's really when we started to get access to the commercial team, to the legal team, to the ticketing team, all these different areas of the business that we didn't have access to. in the first instance. So that helped us grow, and it became more sustainable because, for myself, the first part of my role when I joined, I was doing everything with Rob. I was coaching on the pitch during the day. I was going out to schools, giving away free tickets. I was doing the kit. You name it, I was pretty much doing it. But that was the norm in women's football, and I'm sure there was other people at other clubs doing exactly the same, because having multi roles was just the norm. And I enjoyed it. I revelled in it, and could see the potential that the club had, and Emma driving it. It was an exciting place to be, even though we were working crazy hours.
I want to touch on Emma because I want to ask about the club culture, and the ethos seems to be never settle. And I know that Emma's been the face almost, but actually she can't have done it on her own. And actually we're now discovering that you did a lot of work behind the scenes that the fans won't know about. So I want to shine a light on you, Paul. Tell me how you guys set the culture. How did that ethos become so ingrained in the team now, even after Emma's gone? It seems to be never settle, win, win, win all the time.
Yeah, we worked very closely together for 12 years, sat in the same office, made decisions together on everything. So yeah, we built it on being both from hard-working families, working class families, being humble. That was a big part. We wanted the humility to remain, even as we grew and we were getting more and more things into the programme. We wanted the players to remain humble, have no egos, and be good people. And I think, again, going back to the recruitment, whoever we've recruited, whether it's been players or staff, that's at the heart of everything that we did. And fortunately, we had the club supporting us financially and really investing in the women's game, because they wanted us to be a winning team. And I think, anyone that's played for Emma or worked with Emma, that is one thing that stands out above everything else. She's a winner, and she drives standards, and she doesn't accept anything less than winning. And she's obviously now gone on to the US, but she grew the team at an unbelievable rate, and she got the club to really buy into her vision and the potential that she saw in the club, and to help get us to where we are now.
You're so humble. You've managed to turn that question about how it was all Emma, and actually it was you too.
Yeah, no,
you were also doing it.
The combination of me and Emma worked really well. And I think with the recruitment, for example, she was coming out of a job in Chicago where she knew the player pool internationally, and because I'd worked at Doncaster for 7 years before joining Chelsea, I knew the domestic player pool. And with my background in recruitment, then the combination just swept up the best players from around the world and helped start the process of a winning team. But we did have to rip it up. When we first joined, I think 2013, I think it was, we released 10 or 11 players at the end of that season, because we realised to be competitive in the league, we needed a total reset.
And that's hard.
Yeah, that was hard. It's never nice having those conversations with anybody at any time, and it's still difficult conversations even now. But I think we were brave to do that. And success didn't come immediately. It nearly did on that fateful day at Manchester City that I'll never forget. But shortly after that, we did become a winning team, and we've been fortunate. We've managed to keep that going over 12 years, and winning 17 trophies in that time is unbelievable, really. You
touched on recruitment. I want to know what it was like back then when you started, how it changed, but the step by step for those that don't know, from the scout to the agent to the transfer window. How does it work?
Back then, it was a lot simpler than what it is now, I would say, because, there was probably no women's teams that had scouts. It was the coaches that were the scouts. So it was Emma and I identifying the players and then signing the players.
And do you have like a little watch list that you're always looking at?
We do now, but I think back then it was more because of our knowledge of like the international market and domestic market of who was available, bear in mind then there was no agents in the game really. In the early days, there was no agents, there was no transfer fees. So it was really around your knowledge on players. And because we'd both worked in the women's game for a lot of years, I think that's where we perhaps had the edge over other teams, that our player pool knowledge was quite vast. Whereas now, there's a whole team behind it. There's TJ O'Leary, who's our lead scout, who does a fantastic job. He's identifying players with his own small scouting team.
And how would you like to see the recruitment process change in the future, maybe?
I think that process will stay as it is, but from the club's point of view, we want to be trying to bring more of our own young players through from our academy, because we are conscious that in the league rules you have to have 8 homegrown players out of 25. For Champions League you have to have 4 club trained players out of 25. And that's really where we want to look at, as well as signing some world-class players for the here and now. We also want to be getting that pathway right for our young players. And it started to happen with us creating the loan programme, which was something we decided to do a number of years ago, probably the first women's team to do that. And it was really to give our best young players coming through the academy a platform to gain good match minutes, to try and help bridge the gap between academy football and first team, because that gap is big at the moment across all women's teams, but particularly with ours. So we created the loan programme and have put a number of players through that. And we've had one real success story at the moment in Aggie Beaver-Jones that's come all the way through our pathway, been on a 2-year loan, 1 year to Bristol City, 1 year to Everton, and then come back into our squad and having a real impact. So obviously gone on, played for England. So I think in that area of the club, in the women's academy, there's a real air of they're really excited to see what the future's like in there, that they can now see a player that's come through that pathway. It's not just someone saying it, they can now actually believe it. They've seen someone do it. And she's sort of become the poster girl for that pathway. Hopefully Aggie will be the first of many to come through. We have got Lexi Potter that's out at Crystal Palace on a 2nd-year loan, who potentially could be someone who come into the squad in the future. Lola Brown is another good young player coming through, and Vera Jones. So we are doing good work in that area. It just takes time, and I think, the loan programme gives them that platform.
I hate the comparison between men's football and women's football, but when it comes to the academy players, are you starting to see that there is more of a similarity now? Are we seeing agents with younger players coming through? Yeah,
it started to happen this season, which is a first in that space.
And how do you handle that when they're so young, I guess?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's one that Dean probably does more of than myself, but it's definitely, I think, an area of the business that's growing at a rapid rate is the academy, and I do see in the future it is going to turn into the boys' academy. It's just a matter of how quickly that happens.
Which I guess has pros and cons.
Yeah, no, we want it to be fully professional eventually, like what it is on the boys' side, but we just need to get that infrastructure right and build it slowly like we did with the first team. But certainly even last summer, there's been a big increase in investment into that area for the reasons I mentioned before, with the homegrown and club trained. Because if you don't, then, look at the way the transfer fees are growing. There used to be no transfer fees. Now, 6-figure fees or even more is becoming more prevalent in the game. So it's going to be more important we get the investment right at the academy to maybe stop us having to go out and buy somebody further down the line. If we can get them early, develop them, and then bring them into our environment, it'll make more business sense as well.
This podcast is brought to you by Skoda, the official car partner of Chelsea Women and proud supporters of women's sport. It's football season, time for after-work training, muddy boots and early morning weekend games. Whether you're playing five-a-side after work, cheering the kids on from the sidelines on a Saturday morning, or gathering with your mates to watch the big leagues each weekend, Skoda's the perfect companion for your everyday adventures. Zip around town in the fully electric Enyaq, or give the squad a lift home in the all-new 7-seater Kodiaq. There's something in the range to suit teams of all shapes and sizes. Don't just take my word for it, though. Search the Skoda range today to jump in and see for yourself. We've talked about Chelsea wanting the edge for the recruitment process, but then if we look at inside the club, the girls have talked about how Chelsea are always pushing for those marginal gains that ultimately become huge gains. So the menstrual cycle tracking is one. Hannah Hampton mentioned the gymnastics coach for the goalkeepers. What is the next kind of focus?
Yeah, we're always looking for an edge, but I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Paul, you can trust me. Tell me.
There's no way I can divulge what's next on that list. But yeah, we're always looking to stay one step ahead of our competitors. And yeah, the future will be no different.
Okay. And is that something that Emma brought in and you guys have carried on? Or was it something that was a group decision that actually let's look at this, and this? I think one of them even mentioned a stretching coach. I think it might have been Zachira, and she said, I didn't know I needed a stretching coach until I had a stretching coach. Whose idea was it to focus on those little areas?
Emma was always looking for little 1%ers to make a difference between us and other teams, and that's something that we've continued since she's departed. But yeah, that was very much brought in from Emma. She didn't settle for what we had, even if we'd been in a winning season. She was always looking for something else to make sure we stayed one step ahead of the chasing pack. Never settling. No.
So talking about Emma, I've got to then talk about Sonia. How did the recruitment process happen from, we've talked about players, but now for a coach, because Emma was pretty big shoes to fill. So how did the whole process work around Sonia coming in?
Yeah, I led that process, created a long list for possible new coaches. I drew up a characteristics of what I thought would be important.
Okay.
Both on the pitch and both off the pitch.
Can you give me some examples?
I'll give you a few. Yeah, I'll give you a few.
He's like, I'm gatekeeping a couple of these.
It was to be, to have good experience in women's football. To be a winner.
Big tick.
Have had previous experience of winning. Be good in the media. Good person, good character. Can handle a big dressing room with a lot of diversity within that dressing room. But yeah, it was put together a long list, brought it down to a short list, and then presented the short list to the sporting directors, and then we took it forward to interview process. Then we worked in collaboration to decide on who was going to be the next coach, and Sonia was our number one choice, and we were really glad that she joined us, and she's made an unbelievable start to her first season. Well, I can't even say start now, we're near the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, unbelievable journey so far in her first season.
And Chelsea are always on the hunt for silverware. I know from the players what their goals and their aspirations are. I know from Sonia from speaking to her, but I guess from the staff perspective, how do you set goals and how do you keep silverware as being a dominating objective?
Yeah, no, I think it's all comes from the top. So, when Sonia first met the staff and the players, she made it very clear, and I think she made it very clear in the media in her first interview. She wants to win all 4 trophies that we're competing for, and everyone else needs to get on board with that, and that's no different really to how Emma was. The ambitions have always been the same in recent years, that we want to win all 4 trophies every season, and yeah, we've made a good start to that this season, winning the Subway Cup, so the first trophy of the new era. But there's still a lot to play for the rest of the season. We're in a fantastic position. It's just a matter now of how many trophies we can bring back to Cobham.
Paul, I've got to ask, you've been at the club for over 10 years. You've seen it where it was. You've brought it all the way to here. You've seen it now just win after win after win. I know from asking players, how do you keep the determination and the kind of drive alive from on the pitch from them? But how do you do it when it must feel like you've more than done what you needed to do? How do you keep the drive alive, I suppose?
I think it's the desire to make sure the chasing pack don't catch you. We've got a target on our back. We have had for a number of years. But yeah, I think the desire to make sure that doesn't happen. That's in all areas. It's not easy. winning's not easy. But yeah, I would say that's the one burning ambition, is to win the Champions League. We haven't achieved that yet. We've been close on a number of occasions. And yeah, maybe the referee making a different decision in the semi-final last year might have helped us get through in that game. I still think we'd have beaten Sonia's Lyon in the final, but I'm not sure she'd agree with that. So yeah, that's again another ambition that's not yet been achieved. So for me, yeah, it's clear. We want to keep going until we do achieve that, and we want to make sure we stay 1 foot ahead of everyone else.
And do you think, being the super glue of the club, do you think that you need to show that drive in order for the other members of staff to also, do you feel like you need to lead that drive?
Yeah, I think that's very important. Like in a leadership position, whether it's Sonia or myself, yeah, you need to be showing the rest of the staff that's the expectations, that's the standards, and everyone's accountable to that. And I think that's no different to anyone in leadership, because people are looking at you for direction. And yeah, for us, it's very clear. Again, moving from Emma to Sonia, it's been seamless transition, which again is not easy. We had 6-7 staff leave with Emma and go to the US, so I didn't have much summer holiday. I was happy when the October international break rolled around, so I could actually go away because I was doing a lot of the recruitment in that area. But yeah,
and where did you go? Where was your holiday of choice?
I can't even remember where I went, actually.
I love that.
That's not good. It might have been Tenerife, I think it was, actually.
Okay.
It's just come back to me.
Got a bit of beach. Good.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that was important to get the right people in. And I think, yeah, they've all made a really good start. And the rest of the existing staff have really bought into the new coach's ideas and the environment. And, Sonia's building on that environment that Emma and I created.
Paul, I've taken up so much of your time already, so I'm already very appreciative that you've spoken to me for this long. My last question is, in the 12 years that you've been at Chelsea, what has been your favourite moment?
That is a very difficult question to answer. But yeah, there's been so many great memories, but I think the one that stands out beyond the others is probably the opportunity that I had to walk the team out at Wembley for the FA Cup final in 2018 against Arsenal. And yeah, it coincided with my dad had passed away in the August, so it was a really special moment. The rest of the family were there, and he'd actually walked his team out there for Scunthorpe, and I think it was 1992. So yeah, it was a lot of similarities and brought back a lot of memories. So yeah, there's been a lot of other moments as well throughout the 12 years, but that'd definitely be the main one. And it was quite funny how it came about. Emma was pregnant. And she said to me earlier in the campaign that she was going to be giving birth sort of mid to end of May. So she said, if we make the FA Cup final, you'll have to walk the team out. And I didn't really think too much about it. I'd forgot about it. And then when we beat Man City, Frank Kirby, I think, scored the second goal for us to beat them 2-0 at home in the semi-final. It still didn't dawn on me that I was going to walk the team out. And then after the game, she said to me, "Oh, by the way, now you do know that you are walking the team out, don't you?" And I was like, just really excited to do that. But yeah, it sort of passed me by. I totally forgot about it. I was just so focused on the game. But yeah, that was really a special moment because there's not many people get the opportunity to walk a team out. And we did win against Arsenal on that day as well, 3-1. So it was extra special.
Absolutely. Well, you've been integral to the journey that Chelsea have been on, and it's been really special to speak to you. So thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to We Are Chelsea, the official podcast of Chelsea Women, brought to you in association with Skoda, who are the official car partner of Chelsea Women and proud supporters of women's sport. A huge thanks to Skoda for having us here today, and we'll see you next time.